in there. I don't think this whole thing's going to be air pocketed. Do you have anything to say about that?
Again, I think until I bring by the material, the reference material, it's just, I mean, we can talk about, but it's hard to make really any real decisions until you've had a chance to look at that. Because I think once you look at our reference material, it'll make things incredibly clear.
I see this is kind of skewed in relation to this, and that's probably on purpose, isn't it?
These are all parallel walls are the depth of a room, because then it creates something called phase, and then you can't have good, accurate listening of sound. It just makes weird pockets. So just having each one of these angled makes it so nothing bounces right back at each other. Nothing will be mirrored.
This doesn't really matter that much, does it?
Matters like crazy.
Even in the control room?
Especially in the control room. Because
you're hearing what's happening in there, is that why?
Well, the thing is that like once the sound comes out of these speakers, it'll inevitably hit this wall, and then if these are parallel with none of these angles or these slopes, what it'll do it'll send a mirror bounce right back this way, and so it'll hit our ears, and it'll cancel out certain frequencies that are coming and originating from the speakers, and then it creates a pocket. It's called standing room or standing waves. That's what it's called, standing waves. And so you could be listening to something out of your speakers and be standing right here, and it just sounds completely different as when you're standing right here. And it's not because you're just in a different part of the room. It's because of if you don't have these angled walls, the exact same frequencies keep bouncing into each other, and it literally just creates...
Like a ping pong?
It creates a perception of sound that literally doesn't exist. It's a toxic byproduct of having parallel walls.
You get like a ping pong ball effect too, probably. Just ping, ping, ping.
Yes.
Well, I see this.
Not like exactly, but yeah, totally.
I see this wall is not parallel to that wall.
Not at all. These have all, Joseph and I specifically sat down and angled each one of these. Ideally, if you can have 6 to 12 degrees of a slant on all your walls, that's great.
Is this vertical slant or in relation to each other?
In relation to each other, and just in general. Like they don't have, like if this one was 6, this one doesn't need to be 12 specifically. Just if you make each angle between 6 and 12 degrees, that is an incredible start. And you know, this was just designed by Joe like that.
But this is not large enough that you could get in there and squeeze between them.
I believe at the most shallow parts it's going to be 8 inches, and at the deepest parts, like right here, it's going to be 14 to 16 inches.
So it's not designed for you to have access?
Not at all. Not at all.
Those are kind of like pockets, sound pockets, because like this is where it's going to get trapped the most. And right here we have our glass as well, and this should just be stuffed with mask, sound killing, deadening material.
The right combo of it, because it's like such a fine balance between absorption and deflection or reflection that you're trying to achieve. And
theoretically, it's not better to just smash a bunch of insulation in. It's better to have like proportionate, like air pocket insulation.
And resonance that you were talking about, having space for it to resonate is actually really healthy for it.
So there's definitely a science behind it. We'll let you know everything.
I found out that
at the learning experience for me, because I've never done this.
In like old Roman Colosseums and like old Greek architecture, when you see these huge vases or vases around, those aren't ornamental, they're actually there, so sound in the room gets captured in the big vase, and then it starts doing this inside of the vase all the way down, and it just creates a resonance that, I guess, what is that?
Helmholtz resonator.
Helmholtz resonator captures it, and then it resonates it and like lets it naturally like die down instead of just killing it or just bouncing it back. Really interesting stuff.
You know what?
What?
Since we're getting all technical,
we don't have to.
Usually they stuff it with something, cotton, and
yes.
once it gets resonated, it turns into heat, and then the cotton kills the heat.
How interesting is that, right? So basically, we're I think trying to do that with the walls, create a resonator.
Yeah, so get on that.
Again, we've got the reference material. I mean, it's drawn out, written incredibly well. It's something. It's done by an institute, and it's just
Well, that's
it's
why
incredible.
I told Joseph, you're going to have to put this on the drawing for
Yeah,
me and
we will.
take me by the hand, because
Well, if you want to, like,
So I'll know where
when
to
should
go
we
with it.
meet up on something like this? Should it be like you, me, and like Joseph,
when we
like
get
the whole
started,
a whole team?
when we get started with construction, yeah, I'm sure we'll be shoulder to shoulder a lot.
Okay.
When you see these
Sounds
references
sexy.
we have too, they're like very detailed to the point where like the first time I saw it, couldn't comprehend all the little drawings and
specifics,
specifics.
yeah.
But now when I look at it, it's like, oh, of course. Yeah, the measurements are there, the proportions. You know, they might be this big, but if you just do the correct proportions to the what do you say the graph to it or whatnot.
It's
for
got-
like life size drawings.
It's got like frequency calculators where you put in the amount of feet you have in the room, square feet, square footage, and it just helps you calculate with the materials exactly that you're using on the ceiling, the floor, the walls, exactly what frequencies will be the most skewed. And then we can go from there and learn like where we should put like a certain thickness of insulation and whatnot.
Well, like stuff in here, that's going to have to be done before we, put drywall up.
Right.
That's why when you were saying that, I was like, that's 14 inches is, it's a big gap to not be able to get to or have to take a wall down.
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of packing material in that.
Yeah, because that's why I asked if that was accessible, because once we seal it up with drywall.
We're even making it a point for the wiring, and I'm sure you already know this, that like nothing's going through the walls at all as well. It's all being routed like through the ceiling or like outside the perimeter so that there's
Nothing's
degradation of-
compromising the integrity of the walls. And like instead of having the outlets in there, what we're going to do is drop a pole. Through the ceiling, the wiring is going to come here and then drop a pole right there. And then there's actually just going to be like metal tubing going all across the walls with the outlets like on top, so we can just put
wire
it down.
mold stuff, surface. We call it wire mold, it's surface stuff, surface mounted.
Surface mounted wire mold?
Well, the wire mold covers the wire.
Okay.
That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Is it like, correct me if I'm wrong, is that something?
Are you going to just run it out of conduit? They
think-
make a more decorative stuff. That's what we call
Really?
the wire mold. You put a track on the wall, and then you put your wire, and then this snaps over it.
Oh.
But I mean,
What looks more industrial?
that looks more industrial there.
I feel like that
Yeah. And again, just being on the floor is going to be. I don't want to, like, we thought we could just have like the poles coming down like at different parts in the ceiling, but then Joseph was like letting me know that we would still need to put one screw into the wall right behind the outlet, and like that's not cool because we're spending so much time, research, effort, money in making these walls immaculate,
Well,
and
now,
we just
if
can't
you
compromise
put
it.
conduit like that, that has to be strapped to the wall every so often.
Where? What do you mean?
Can we do it on the floor?
Yeah, he and I were talking one day out here about, he didn't know yet what we could do on floor outlets. We don't want to get into cutting the concrete.
Right.
You remember that that little short piece that was on the floor? Where was that, over here? Yeah, it was right here, you remember that?
Barely? Oh yeah, totally.
Remember it came across?
Yeah,
there?
absolutely.
He said he wasn't sure they would let us use that.
Right.
If it's not in a high traffic area, yeah, but, I don't know what
Right.
code will be on that.
We're the only place we're planning on jackhammering concrete is right here. There's going to be this control platform. Joseph was talking about getting the electrical panel to come in through the wall, drop it down, so it comes out underneath the wall right here. And we're just going to do one jackhammering about this much length right here, and then we're going to feed this whole room with electricity from the command platform through this underground wiring. And then I don't know if he's planning on just making the conduit, once it enters into this wall, come around the back here and then drop down here, and then we can just have it mounted to the floor with whatever industrial piping or whatever
So that
correct
the
professional
ENT conduit like that, you
product
can see
is.
it has to be strapped. They
Yeah.
have clamps every so many feet.
Which is why we decided not to do that. We were going to do that originally on the walls, but now
I
we
thought
just
you just said you were gonna surface mount everything.
onto the floor.
Okay,
Onto
nothing's
the
on
floor.
the wall.
Nothing's
Okay.
on the wall.
Is that
Everything on the
doable,
floor.
feasible?
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah.
We
Cool.
said our worst problem was like if we wanted to like mop that we just like couldn't take it out and
Yeah.
clean under,
But then I
Right.
thought, like, why instead of putting the plugs in this way, then why not just like have them on the top, which is actually cooler for us, so we get to just like put them in like this,
Yeah.
and then when we're mopping, it's not going to be close to touching the electrical sockets or like what's plugged in. So
I still don't understand though how, if you leave exposed concrete, how that's more acceptable than even like a wood floor. Or more
it's
desirable.
not more acceptable.
Or
It's only
desirable.
because the only reason in the whole wide world that we would even consider leaving concrete is because we know all the other stuff we're putting in the room and how we're going to be able to manipulate the sound of the room. And this concrete does have a liveliness to it that I believe we would be able to work with to our advantage. It's not ever something that people prefer, but the ideas we're doing are we're doing some new stuff, and we believe that that would work, and it would still work with us if we had to do it. But now at this point, we would rather put in the wood paneling if it is an option.
I think they're both, the surfaces are different, but they're both very kind of like reflective. But they
Yeah.
both have
Well, I mean,
pores
it
and
seems to me
pores.
like concrete would just immediately.
Absolutely.
Where the wood would be a softer.
It's a little buoyant. as
Well, we would throw rugs on certain parts of the concrete too, and
So that'll negate a lot of the.
it'll negate a lot of it. And the thing is, we don't want carpeting everywhere either, because that also has a totally specific effect.
Yeah.
And when I bring you the reference material, not only does it have everything we need to know about the walls, it actually has specific reflective and absorptive properties of concrete, of wood, of cellulose fiber, of different thicknesses of cellulose fiber.
Steel ceiling.
Yes, roof deck. It gives us everything we need to know about every surface.
So that's going
and
to
its
get
frequency
sprayed with
response.
insulation in those
With
two
the
rooms.
cellulose fiber, absolutely.
That's what I thought.
And believe it or not, the concrete and the wood's frequency responses aren't that crazy different, but
Really?
there is a difference, absolutely.
I'm sure there would have to be a difference.
Yeah, there is definitely, but it wasn't as huge as I expected. Because the wood is still also reflective.
Okay.
Depends on the wood too. I feel
It
like
depends on the
I feel
concrete
like the
too.
wood we're speaking about though definitely is like it's got some kind of laminate on it or like that effect to where there's no pores that are really exposed
Yeah.
to keep it clean. Whereas concrete has micro little pores that all do something.
Yeah.
Just
It also helps, like the resonator. It helps like just take in a sound wave through all those teeny tiny little pores, which is amazing, and then it dies out sort of naturally as it travels through it. But at the same time, it's an incredibly dense material, so it lasts a long time.
Okay.
Because I also knew, like, over time, as we're like dragging equipment around and everything, wood will end up getting scratched up. If we end up doing wood floors, we'll end up making little carts to put stuff in. And if we go with the concrete, I'm actually like, yeah, scratch it up. It'll probably look cooler over time.
Well, like your dad said, if the wood gets beat up, that means you're doing a lot of business.
Yes, that is what he
He
said.
said if the floors keep nice, stays nice looking, you need to worry.
Yeah.
And he said if business is good, you replace it after a while.
Exactly.
So,
Exactly.
Okay.
So we'll figure it out.
okay.
Y'all have an awesome day.
uh,
Peace out.